So there's this idea, maybe I've just made it up, I don't know, the term aboutness, that a story should be about something, which sounds maybe kind of obvious, but is actually really important. And the first time I sort of thought of this idea or stumbled upon it was when I fell in love with the movie Castaway, the Robert Zemeckis movie starring Tom Hanks and a volleyball. Lots of people think that movie is about a man stranded on an island. And if you think that and you watch it, you'll be really disappointed and you'll be confused. And you're like, this movie's actually really boring. And why is he talking to a volleyball? And after he gets back home, why doesn't the movie end? Why does he tell the story all over again? It's like, it doesn't make, but it's not a movie about a man stranded on an island. It's a movie about frustrated love. And when you watch it through that lens, it's amazing. There's so much to like about it. And there's so many layers, and the way it starts and the way it ends all starts to make sense. And a good test, a good way to realize that it's not a story about a man stranded on an island is that you could take that key plot element and you could change it out with anything, and the movie would still basically be the same, right? Instead of Tom Hanks being stranded on an island, he could have been abducted by aliens. He could have been a prisoner of war. He could have been really anything that separated him from Helen Hunt. And as long as the thing that kept him alive was his desire to get back to her, and when he got there, she had moved on, then you have Castaway. Then you have this movie, and it works. And so it can't be about a man on an island, right? Because you can change that part of it, and the movie holds together. I've been thinking about this a lot because, first of all, if you haven't read anything by Ted Chiang, just stop listening to me and go get this book. If you have any interest at all in writing short fiction, no one, maybe in history, is better than Ted Chiang. He wrote, so the collection is called Stories of Your Life. There is one in here called The Story of Your Life, which got turned into a movie called Arrival a couple years ago. I think Amy Adams was in it. And if you ask yourself, what was that movie about? You'll probably say like, oh, wasn't it, there were like aliens and a linguist? And wrong, it's not about that. And if you read the book, I think that's technically a novella or a novelette. I don't know what these distinctions mean. Anyway, it's a 40-page short story. And it is a story about a woman choosing to become a mother, despite knowing full well that it's going to be pretty painful. And not like childbirth painful, like her kid is going to be obnoxious and going to die young. And yet she still chooses to become a mother. And it's interesting. I was flipping through this just before going live, and like even just flipping through it, I get new things out of it. This phrase, "Yes, that's her, she's mine," appears at the beginning and at the end in very different contexts. And like, oh, I didn't get that the first 2 times I read it. I have to read it a third time. Anyway, I've been thinking a lot about this short story because I'm writing a short story right now. And structurally, I wanted it to be similar. Structurally in the sense that he kind of Ted, the author, cuts back and forth between kind of 2 different timelines and interlaces them. And in this short story I've been working on and telling you about, I've been trying something similar, and just hasn't worked like really at all. And I got thinking like, how does Ted Chiang make it work? What does he do that makes it so effective? And I realized that pretty much every episode on both timelines, no matter, has to do something with this woman deciding to become a mother. And you don't realize that until partway through. It seems like it's about aliens. And then you realize her relationship with this physicist who is helping her communicate with the aliens is going to transform into something else. And then like blows your mind. And so like thinking about my own story, the ending, I've got the ending and I know I want that ending where my story is about a journalist. And in the end, I wanted him to have a reconciliation with his wife. And it seemed to fit in outline form. But then when I wrote it out, it didn't work at all. And I've been wondering why. And it's because the story I've written is not at all about his relationship with his wife. So the ending can't be about a reconciliation between them, right? And so what I'm doing now is I'm going through, I have the structure in place, I have the story there, I have a lot of the dialogue, but I'm ripping out the setting and replacing it. There are so many conversations this journalist has with his editor that I'm now going to have him have with his wife instead. And like they'll have to change a little bit because the wife and the editor are different characters, but essentially it's going to be the same story, but it's all going to be set in conversations between this man and his wife. So when we get to the end, the reconciliation makes sense, because what I've discovered is it's very difficult, maybe impossible, I don't know, to have a reconciliation story if one of the characters who needs the reconciling is absent throughout the whole, is off screen for the whole story, right? We need to see the interplay of their relationship throughout, so that at the end, when they reconcile, it is meaningful. And so I think what I'm learning here is that, I mean, Ted Chiang, I'm pretty sure, I haven't done a deep study of this yet, though I intend to. I think every little chunk, every episode in The Story of Your Life somehow relates back to this theme of her ultimately embracing motherhood, even though she knows there's going to be some horrible parts to it. And so when I think about the novel I'm working on, which I've always said is a time travel novel, it's really actually pretty similar thematically. It's about a woman who has just become a mother and has to kind of grow into that role. And so I want to hold it to that standard, even though it's a longer work, and like, who knows what a novel would be like if Ted Chiang wrote it, because I don't think he's ever done that. But I want to go through my novel and analyze every chapter, every scene, and say, is this about what I want this story to be about? Or is this about time travel, which is the equivalent of the island in Cast Away, right? Like, you don't want to get distracted by your mechanics. And I think the great thing with science fiction, you know, The Story of Your Life is ostensibly about it happens during an alien invasion. My novel has time travel in it. You don't want your sci-fi story to be about those things, right? You want those to be in there, but to not be the point. At least that's what I want. Maybe I should say I instead of you. Anyway, so that's my thoughts on Aboutness. And step one, I'm gonna go through my short story, and it's like changing its clothes, right? The structure is still there, the outline is unchanged, but I'm going to recast it as a story about a relationship between a man and his wife. And then for my novel, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hold every scene, every chapter up to the light and say, is this about a woman growing into motherhood, or is it getting distracted with other things? And I bet the overall quality of both my short story and my novel will go up because of it. So that's my thought for today.